Hello, everybody. Welcome to our SBI main session for the English language. I think we've covered all the other sections, right? I didn't expect a lot of people today. I'm sure all of you will be busy preparing, except for those who still want some last minute tips and strategies. Um, let's just see who's here. Initially, I saw Gayatri, Shishant, and someone else. Just three of you are there. John. Mansa is here, Deepak, Revati, Manas, Tanya, Pratibha, Deepak. Okay, I'm repeating names now. Ani, Anna, are you new? Kulkar, Pratibha. Okay, same people. All right. So, how's your preparation for the mains? I'm guessing everybody who qualified are the ones who are here today. Hi, Nayan. Hi, Naveen. So let me know how's your preparation so far. I know there's only left another 2 days, and then you'll have to take the plunge. Hi, Manuja and Dharam. Dharam, are you new? Ayushi. So let me know if anybody is new. You just joined us recently. Today is your first live session with English or otherwise. Yes, for NICL as well. Yep. Hi, Sasi Kumar. Rudra is here. Feeling tensed. Okay, good enough. It's great to have you here, Shishant. I mean, even though you're preparing for some other exam, it's still fine. 11th of June. Okay. Hi, Tanya. So today, what we'll do is obviously we're going to look at last year's paper. We tried sourcing this year's paper, but we have a fair idea of what sort of questions will come. So we'll be prepared for that. I will also give you an ideal time that you should spend per question type, right? So before we get started with taking a look at some questions, let's just first quickly analyze what are the possible question types that we can expect. At least, I mean, keeping in mind last year's paper as a base, right? So first things last year for the English language section, we all know it's the total is for 200 marks, right? 4 sections. Out of that, English language has about 35 questions for 40 minutes for 40 marks, right? So if I'm saying 35, out of those 35 questions, the question types that were asked predominantly revolved around all these new questions, right? Questions like, so that we've been looking at in our problem solving session as well, and it's already there in our English language section. If you go through the videos, we've kind of put down those question types already. So questions like paragraph completion, odd man out of context, right? Sentence connectors, reading comprehension passages. There were 2 passages ranging from 5 to 8 questions. And then you had synonyms, antonyms with a twist. The twist being options were given. You would have to figure out whether they are synonyms or whether they are antonyms. But 2 words you have to identify, right? So there were about 7 questions on that. So just to give you a breakup, right? 35 questions. You had 2 reading comprehension passages. One passage had about 5 questions. Another passage had about 8 questions. And the passage word count will range anywhere between 650 to 750, 800, right? This will be the word count, which means you'll have to have a reading fluency of being able to read those passages well within 2 to 2.5 minutes, right? If I'm saying 350 words per minute, you should ideally finish reading those passages within 2.5 minutes, right? Then we look at how much time to spend. I'll come to that second stage. So reading comprehension, 650 to 750 word count, 2 passages ranging from 5 to 8 questions. So that's 13 questions for reading comprehension alone. Then 5 questions on paragraph completion, right? Either the sentence that you have to identify can be in the beginning of the paragraph, it can be at the end of the paragraph, it can be also in the middle of the paragraph, right? We'll apply the concept of jumbled sentence. That's the logic we'll apply. That's the strategy we'll apply. Then 5 questions on out of context. So there's a passage, 4 or 5 sentences are given. You have to choose a sentence which is not in line with the theme or the central idea of the given context. Then 5 questions on that. Then 5 questions on sentence connectors. And then you had synonyms, antonyms, like I said, 7 questions on that. So that was your 35 questions. Now, ideally, yes, these were the questions that came last year, but we have to still be prepared for our usual question types, which is phrase substitution, sentence improvement, finding errors, spot the errors, sentence completion, which is nothing but fill in the blanks, right? Closed passage, jumbled sentence, right? So we need to still be prepared with these usual question types which you're already familiar with. It's just that we are paying more attention to these new question types. That's about it. Okay. Now, ideally, let's say reading comprehension first. Okay, for reading comprehension, if I'm saying 2 passages, you shouldn't be spending more than 5 minutes per passage. So if it's 2 passages in 10 minutes, 40 minutes, right? That's the total time. So for 40 minutes, 10 minutes you're allotting for reading comprehension, comprising 2 passages, not just for 1 passage. Then you move on to paragraph completion. You might need some more time for that. 5 questions, right? But we're going to look at some quick strategies that we can apply in saving time. But ideally, you can spend another 7 to 8 minutes to complete paragraph completion. Then you have your sentence connectors and synonyms and antonyms and all. All of that, you need to try and finish it up within 7 to 8 minutes again. So which means 10 questions within 7 to 8 minutes. So ideally, what you need to always keep in mind is if 40 minutes are there, I need at least 5 minutes to, okay, let's not say 5 minutes, let's say 3 to 4 minutes at least to kind of quickly proofread what I've selected, right? Because there's negative marking also involved. So you need to be very, very sure of the question or answer that you have selected. If you are not sure, don't take that risk and get marked negatively. So which means I need to be extremely positive that this is the answer to this question, right? So you need about 3 to 4 minutes to proofread definitely. So out of 40 minutes, within 35 minutes, that's your time to complete all the 35 questions. So each question, some questions might take more than a minute, some questions might just take 20 seconds, right? You'll have to decide how you're going to spend or allot time based on your level of or your ability to answer questions. In the sense, which question type is your area of strength, which question type is your challenge area, right? Some more people joined. Venkateju, Aditya, okay, great. And Pragyam. All right. So, yes, we're going to look at those difficult question types in today's session. So, you'll have an idea. We'll spend some time reiterating some of the strategies which we've already applied in our problem solving session. We've looked at these questions, paragraph completion, sentence connectors. We've looked at these questions in our problem solving session, but we'll take time to see how we can continue to apply these strategies. The only problem I see with all of us is, yes, we are aware of it, but because we don't take time to practice as much, we fail to apply the strategy that we already know. Mohammed, Pavan, Paul, Sarika, Ramesh, and Joshika. A lot of new people, huh? Please let me know if today is your first session, or maybe you were the silent spectators and you just decided to introduce yourself today. Okay. So I think we'll get started. Quite a bit to cover, right? So the question types that we're going to look at in today's session is, so Aditya, okay, good. Hi Aditya, great to have you here. Okay, Joshikant is not new, fine, okay. No, I just saw some new names, so I just wanted to know. Nagasarika, okay, great, thank you. Pavan, Krishna, all right, nice to have you guys. And thank you, Rudra and Tanya, for welcoming them. Okay, so let me share the PPT. Hi, Harita. And we will get started. Yeah? Manasa also, this is here. We have another Manasa also. Okay. Ramesh, it's your first session. Great. Okay. Hi, Anshul. Great to have you here. Very nice. A lot of new people. So, as usual, I'll spend some time towards the end, quickly taking you guys through the portal. Okay. Last 5 minutes. We'll do that. Even for me, it's the first. Monica. Okay. Super. Okay. Okay. Before we get to the session, I'll take some questions. Pradeep says, ma'am, how to increase the reading speed? There is no shortcut method to increase reading speed, Pradeep. Let me be very honest. If you are in the habit of reading, like you read, generally you read on a daily basis, it can be a newspaper, it can be a book, a fiction book that you're reading, anything that interests you, right? A topic that interests you. So if you generally are in the habit of reading, what you can do is, as a practice methodology, you can start timing yourself, right? In a minute, how many words can you read? Like if you take an article, there are 4 or 5 paragraphs. I don't want you to start counting the number of words and all. Have an approximate idea, right? So if you're able to read a passage with 4 or 5 paragraphs well within 2 minutes, you're okay, right? You're okay. But the only problem most of us face when it comes to the exam point of view is because, first of all, there are too many external factors affecting us as it is. Time factor, right? We are very nervous. Suddenly we forget the strategy to apply for that particular question, and suddenly too many words seem like you can't understand what you're reading. Things like that, because you're very nervous, right? And you want to, and you're also not too sure if the answer that you selected is correct or not. So too many things, not in your favor at the time of the examination. So keeping all that aside, if you still need to pay attention and focus, and if you want to maximize your chances of getting more marks accurately, right? Which means you have to have amazing reading fluency, which is speed plus comprehension. So I don't want to say just reading speed, I'm just going to say speed plus comprehension. So those of you, I'm just looking at the chat screen now, those of you who are having problem with not being able to see the video, yes, you can refresh. You can also change your settings. Lower right hand side bottom corner of the video, just change your settings. Can you do that? Harita first session, okay, good. Pradeep also is new. So just answering Pradeep Jones's question. Reading fluency, speed plus comprehension. So you need to first do that. Time yourself and see if you're able to read 350 words within a minute and a half. That's the speed with which you need to read during the examination. You might be at 200 words per minute currently. That's an average reader. That's how much an average reader reads, right? If you are not at that level, then you have to practice as well. The second strategy that you can apply is take a lot of reading comprehension articles, like sample questions, and try and answer them and see how many answers you get correct, right? After you've done the whole test. go back and reflect and see how many answers you got right. So if you, out of 10 questions, if you've got about 7 to 8 questions correct, your comprehension percentage is at least over and above 80-85%, which is good. And that's all you need for the exam also, right? Nobody is expecting you to get all 10 questions correct and have 100% comprehension, not required at all, because you don't have the time. Yeah. So Pradeep Jones, to answer your questions, just 2 strategies. One, time yourself and choose an article or anything that you're reading and see if you're able to read 350 words within 1.5 minutes. Second is, take a lot of tests and see how many questions you got accurate. Okay, so no more questions, so I think we'll get started with the PPT itself. Right? Let me share the PPT. So these questions we've taken obviously from last year. Okay, so the first thing that we have in front of us is, as you can see, it's a paragraph completion question, right? So for those of you who were there in my last problem solving session, we looked at some strategies. We have been looking at some strategies repeatedly for paragraph completion questions. So we'll see how much of that we can apply. Dabang, don't worry, we just started. This is the first question, right? You haven't missed anything. I was just giving an introduction to what are the possible question types that one can expect, how much time you need to allot, and how you need to plan. And I just answered one question. So for paragraph completion, just a quick recap, right, of what all we can do. Couple of things. I always keep saying this, it's the same strategy as jumbled sentence strategy, right? We can either look for repeat words through the context, or we can fix on keywords and then see if it's making, everything is about coherence. It has to have a logical connect, right? That's what we're looking at. So here I have to identify the topic sentence. Yeah, so there is no problem. Arup, can you refresh yourself? Refresh, not yourself. Refresh or change your settings. Let me know if anybody's having any problem with the video. Okay, coming back to the question. So usually we look at also the surrounding context, right, which will give us some sort of a clue. So one of the clue words that I have right here in the second sentence is, business is instead moving to digital native insurers, right? So quickly, when you're reading itself, identify some keywords, many of which are offering low premiums to those willing to collect and share their data. Okay, so, and if you look at the other context, right, which industry are they talking about? Insurance, right? That seems to be pretty much what is discussed here. So when you have already targeted that this industry, the business in this industry is instead moving to digital native insurers, which means they are advancing to something technologically savvy, which means they have to, the previous sentence has to have some connect to some methodology which was something a little archaic, something a little old fashioned, right? Something a little which required it to transition to this stage of digital, right? So having said that, quickly try and see which option can you identify which is giving you that sort of a meaning. So all you've done is you've just looked at the succeeding sentence, right? You've targeted one particular keyword, which is business is instead moving to digital native insurance. This instead is telling you that something contradictory has to happen in the previous sentence. Now, in your options, right, which of the option, look for again clue words, right? Let's look at option A. Okay. The growing mountain of personal data available to individuals and crucially to firms is giving those with the necessary. This is only for you to, I mean, I'm just trying to break down the question, but ideally, the right way to approach this question is just look at the key hint word instead and the clue word digital native insurers, and then look at the options and see something which is talking about contradicting what was the earlier business, right? That will give you the absolutely Pratibha, bang on, right? So one of the clue words from the given options is obviously C, because it has something that is conventional, something that is traditional. The better behavior resulting from smart devices is just one threat to the insurance industry. We know we're talking about that industry only. Conventional risk pools for home or car insurance, for example, are shrinking as preventable accidents decline, leaving the slow-footed giants. That's another clue word for you. It is an adjective describing the industry, right? So, slow-footed giants moving to something fast-paced, digital, right? That's one way to look at it. But if you're still not too sure, right, this is the only way you can do this. This is one strategy. You look at the succeeding sentence, identify hint words, keywords, and see if there's anything, like instead is a contradictory hint word, right? So Tanya, you're right. The answer is option C. But let's quickly, for our understanding sake, let's quickly look at other options and see why those are not the answer. So option A says the growing mountain of personal data available to individuals and crucially to firms is giving those with the necessary processing power the ability to distinguish between low risk and high risk individuals. This seems like a very unrelated sentence here, at least to go before this sentence that we have here. Okay. B, cheap sensors in the tsunami of data that they generate can improve our lives. Who is the they? Right, I have to have a preceding sentence. It can't be B. A seems unrelated. I'm still putting it in the parking lot. We've said, hey, C is the answer. Let's look at D and E. The uncertainty that underpins the need for insurance is now shrinking thanks to better insights into individual risks. Again, thanks to better insights into individual risks, the succeeding sentence, is it giving me any sort of information or any link? Not really. E, the data has enabled insurance. What data? So the first thing that you can quickly eliminate is option B and E. Even if you are stuck between A, C and D, because of our clue word, conventional, slow-footed giants, and then we're talking about something transitioning to a digital platform, C is our most effective fit as compared to the other options, right? So yes, the answer is C for this question. And the strategy that we've applied is for paragraph completion. In fact, towards the end of the session, I will take you through our portal where we've covered quite a bit of videos on paragraph completion. And I want you to take time in the next 2 days if this is a problematic area for you. If you're saying, ma'am, this question type is a challenge for me, I really need to practice a little more on this, then please, I will direct you to the videos, because each video I would have spoken about some strategy or the other. Okay, we're going to move on. The answer to this is C. Anybody has any questions before we move to the next question? On this one, one of the better options to do is to get into the habit of identifying, or get into the practice of being able to narrow down and fix your eyes on these hint words, clue words, and make sense of what you're doing. See, I really didn't read the entire thing. I didn't need to, because I don't have the time. I will not have the time in the exam to read the entire, this whole passage. I have to apply strategies like this. Okay. Since nobody came back with any question, I'm just going to move forward. Okay, next one. Okay, let's move on. Next one also is a paragraph completion question, but instead of the first topic sentence, this one comes somewhere in the middle. Okay, even more easy if you ask me. But let's quickly look at it and figure out what it is. Now, when you have, yes, correct. That's why. But the thing is, you need to know that, hey, this is my hint word which will help me. A lot of us are not aware that this is how we need to look at this question type, right? That's where the problem is. Okay, so this one, it's coming somewhere in between. So I have to pay attention to the preceding sentence. I'll also have to pay attention to the following sentence. I might also have to pay attention to the topic sentence because it'll give me an idea. Now, before the blank, the sentence says, what employers want are basic but difficult to acquire skills. I want you to keep that in mind, right? So we're talking about something that the employers want. Okay? The following sentence, they care about a potential employee. So this they is obviously referring to the employers. They care about a potential employee's abilities, such as writing, researching, quantitative and analytical skills. Okay. So just reading the preceding and the following sentence, I have an idea that employers are looking for something in the people they want to employ. Okay. Now let's quickly read the Harita. The only reason the passage will not be clearly visible is because your settings is not right. Can somebody post a link, the YouTube link? All you need to do is just go to the bottom right hand side corner and change your resolution. It will be clear. Because if I increase the font a little more, it will go over and beyond, the space that the screen can hold. So I don't want to do that. Thank you, Agrawal and Tungla and Rudra. Okay. So one of the things that you can quickly look for is what are these basic but difficult to acquire skills that, these employers are looking for. Let's read options and see which option is giving me that. Okay. A says, as students flock to the 2 or 3 majors, they see good investments. Professors who teach in those majors are overburdened and the majors themselves become more formulaic and less individualized. Okay, A is talking more about, like the number of majors that these guys want to opt for, not really something that I can fit in between here, these two sentences that we highlighted. B, often it is the art historians and anthropology majors, for example, who having marshaled the abilities of perspective, breadth, creativity and analysis have moved a company or project or vision forward. This again is very... Okay, Sachandra. Usually we do. Let me see. I'll ask Kapoor to do that. Okay. So here it is talking about a specific set of, majors, the students major in art. So that again is irrelevant here because we are generally talking about what employers want and expect, right? We're talking about basic but difficult to acquire skills. Third, furthermore, the link between education. This furthermore doesn't make sense, right? When do you say furthermore? When you're trying to explain, when you're trying to add more details. So what employers want are basic but difficult to acquire skills, and then furthermore, the link between education and earnings doesn't make sense. Very illogical. Option C. It's unrelated. I cannot fit it here in this blank. D. Ideas such as education is necessary to be successful in corporate life are unacceptable because education isn't that much relevant into today's society. Deepak and Tungla, I want you to pay attention to D. D is contradicting the entire passage, right? The crux of the passage. How can you say it's D? Look at D. D is saying ideas such as, it's a very illogical, completely contradicting the crux of what at least even what the preceding and the following sentence, around the blank is saying. I think the first thing you will do is eliminate option D. Because it says education isn't that much relevant into today's society? Not really, that's not the case. Right? Because education is foundational, you need it, but you need to tweak what needs to go into the education, right? When they ask students about their majors, it is usually not because they want to assess the applicant's mastery of the content, but rather because they want to know if the students can talk about what they learned. Now, let's pause. This is a roundabout long way of identifying the answer. Another way that we can do is, we are talking about quickly. When they ask students, what employers want are basic but difficult to acquire skills, from students only they want it, obviously, right? They is referring to the employers, right? That's a quick connect that you can make. And one of the reasons you need to pay attention to the topic sentences, because that is also relevant. The premise that the choice of major amounts to choosing a career path rests on the faulty notion that the major is important for its content and that the acquisition of that content is valuable to employers. So if you look at repeat words, right? Content, major, right? That's pretty much what is revolving through the crux of the message. So what employers want are basic but difficult to acquire skills is nothing but, does the student have the ability to be able to communicate what they have learned, right? That seems to be the most challenging thing that employers are facing nowadays. You've learned all that, right? All theory is there, but practical knowledge is not there. You're not able to bring out or apply what you've learned, right? That is what is the difficult to acquire skill. So logically, option E makes sense, but another easier way to do this is to see if there is a, which is the one that is connecting to the crux of the passage, right? For that, you need to pay attention to the topic sentence again, and then look for these. There is a clue word here, they, referring to the employers. What employers want are basic but difficult to acquire skills. When they, the employers, ask students about their majors, it is usually blah blah blah. Okay. Now, it seems like, hey, we took so long to arrive at the answer to this question. I would ideally skip this question. What I'm trying to say is, the strategies that you can apply for question types like this is to not waste time reading the entire 4 or 5 sentences. Pay attention to the topic sentence, preceding sentence, and following sentence around the blank. Look for repeat words, and still see, ask questions. Who is asking these questions? Who are the key players? Ask why, what, how, when. So when you say who is the they, you know it refers to the employers. So those are some quick methods in which you can arrive at the answer. Let's look at one more. I think there is one more question from this question type. Let's see, I'm not too sure. Okay, so we look at one more. Right, this is also it's not the topic sentence, but it's somewhere in between. Somebody cleared something, I see a lot of congrats. Okay, Nami, well done. So we're going to look at one more. And like I said, immediately you should be tuned to zero in on these clue words. However, this demographic time bomb, that's it. This is your clue. Look for a sentence which is addressing this demographic time bomb. That's it. Right? Everything else, you don't have to worry about. And for that, you need to be aware of, okay, what do you mean by demographic? You need to be aware of that adjective, right? Anshul says, hey, it's option B. Demographic means what? It's some statistic characterizing human populations, right? So look for a sentence which is talking about that. That's it. Which is a sentence? Rudra, Anshul, absolutely right. That's the only sentence which is giving me statistical information about human population. By 2030, for example, 72 million people in the US will be over 65, double the figure in 2000, and their average life expectancy will likely have edged above 20 years. This demographic time bomb, it's a time bomb. Time is ticking, right? And the average life expectancy is going to go down. So that's it. Your answer is B. So you took less than 10 seconds to complete this sentence. I mean, this question, right? So the idea is you always look for repeat words, phrases, narrow in on these contrast, contradicting clue words. What is this meaning? Things like that. That will kind of help you with question types like this. If you need more practice for these question types, I will direct you towards the end where to go and look for, especially the new guys. I'm sure the old guys know where to look for. Okay, clear? So paragraph completion, you can expect 5. I mean, if at all it comes, you can expect around 5 questions on that. If at all it comes, right? It's good for us to be prepared, obviously. That's the reason why we're doing this, to ensure that we know what to look for, how to approach this question type, and save time in this question type. Okay, we'll move to the next question type, which is, what does it look like? Okay, so these are your out of context, odd man out, those sort of questions. So let's read the direction. It says 5 statements are given below, labeled A, B, C, D, and E. Among these, 4 statements are in logical order and form a coherent paragraph passage. From the given options, choose the option that does not fit into the theme of the passage. So we're talking about, it's either called odd man out or out of context, right? And we will apply the same strategy that we apply for jumbled sentences, because it's all about, is it fitting in the given context? So ideally, I need to explain, ideally you need to look at what's the general idea or main theme of the passage. Shrinu, you're referring to the earlier question, is it? Okay, I'm getting answers for this one already, D and E. Okay, Pratibha, I'm sorry, let me do that. Done, no issues. I'm just going to take some time and go back just for this person here. I think he missed out when I was telling him what to do. So this is for you, Shrinu. All I said was, after the blank, you have this hint word, right? Contradictory hint word. However, this demographic time bomb, which means the previous sentence has to make reference to that demographic time bomb. Demographic being your clue word, an adjective, which is describing the time bomb. And demographic means something that characterizes statistics of human population, right? So from the given options, from A, B, C, D, E, the only statement that is giving me some statistical information about human population is B. And that's how we arrived at the answer. Are you following? We didn't even have to read anything else. Okay? Srinu, are you okay? Okay. Okay, super. So here we are. Some of you have said D, some of you have said E, but let's quickly look at it, okay? So always we keep doing this, right? Repeat words. Dinex first observed the behavior in 2007 when he spotted, so obviously weird name, but we know it's a name because it makes reference to he, okay? So he spotted, what are we talking about? Crocodiles. Okay, with what? I'm just underlining keywords because I want to know if these words are repeated or not, okay? So we're talking about behavior of crocodiles, something to do with sticks. I have behavior again, referring to crocodiles again. Then again I have crocodiles. stick, okay, sticks. Anything that is repeat, I'm just putting it down, okay. Again, we're saying, we're making reference to this guy who's observing the behavior, right? Observations. Okay, now that I have like all these repeat words and phrases, all I'm going to do is I'm going to see. Even now, sometimes we might get carried away and say, hey, there are so many repeat words, which means seems like everything is, related. How do I figure out which one is the odd one out? If you closely look at it, like I said, I'm going to give you, Tungla specifically came back and said, hey, give us some time. So I just started it off. I'm going to give you less than 10 seconds. I'm going to time it, okay? Okay, maybe that's too far. I'll give you 30 seconds. Okay, I'm timing it. I'm going to give you 30 seconds. I started my stopwatch. 30 seconds, start. I have some answers. We'll discuss it once you're done. Or if I'm saying, okay, if you might get 5 questions and out of context, I'm saying, chalo, take 40 seconds per question. Okay, stop. Actually, I gave her 48 seconds. Okay, now let's make an attempt. Okay, some of you have come back and said, hey, ma'am, the option is either D or E. Okay, I don't have any other options. Now, because of these clue words that we've underlined, right? Sticks, which means this has to be some sort of a logical connection also. So it says here, Dinets first observed the behavior in 2007 when he spotted crocodiles lying in shallow water along the edge of a pond in India with small sticks or twigs positioned across their snouts. Okay, so this was the behavior that he noticed first. The behavior, obviously, relating to the behavior that he first observed in 2007. So AB is a link, right? Potentially fooled nest-building birds wading in the water for sticks into thinking the sticks were floating on the water. Okay. So what did the crocodiles do when these nest-building birds came in the water? They remained still for hours. And if a bird near the stick, again, logical sequence, they would lunge. Lunge means they would move forward, right? They would move forward or they would pounce. That's the meaning of lunge. Now D says crocodiles are way clever than thought about generally. Now this seems like a very generic statement. I have a sequence right now. Like it's like a story. Okay, so far A, B, and C is almost like a story. He sees the behavior. The behavior is crocodiles having the stick. What do? The behavior is surrounding when these birds come. They try and think. Across their snouts means nose. For reptiles, right? They refer to it. For humans, it's nose. For animals, usually they say snout. The mouth part, right? That's the snout. Okay. So far, it's almost like a story which is building. Right? So, then what happens when these birds come? The crocodiles will remain still for us, and if a bird near the stick, they would lunge. Now to see if so this thing that I said D is breaking this law, this sequence, this story that is happening here. And the story makes sense here because this guy Dinets, he's made this observation first in 2007, right? To ensure if this stick displaying was a form of clever predation. So he wants to check out, hey, are these crocodiles using this as a gimmick, pretending to make sure that they're able to catch these birds and eat them. So Dinets and his colleagues performed systematic observations of reptiles of 1 year at 4 sites, including 2 rookery and 2 non-rookery sites. Okay, so the option that is breaking that logical story sequence, I want to know, right? So he first started this observation in 2007. This is the observation. B and C clearly explains what happens, and then what? Where is the conclusion to that? E is the one that is concluding. D is very generic, right? It's more like A, B, C, and E are a logical sequence, are one paragraph, and this D is almost like some generic statement, which can even be like this paragraph A, B, C, E, one paragraph can be somewhere in between. It might be from a huge, bigger article, right? So this thing can be like a topic sentence, right? And this can be just an example saying, hey, how this whole thing A, B, C, E is probably an example of saying how clever crocodiles can be or generally are, and this can be an example of that, right? So if I have to choose between which one is the odd one out, I would choose D, right? Because it's breaking my story here. The sequence is very logical in A, B, C, and E. D is breaking that sequence. So that's the one that is odd for me. Unsure, like I said, option B is directly referring to the behavior that he first observed in 2007, right? What did this behavior of them holding these small sticks or twigs positioned across their snouts do? It fooled nest building birds wading in the water. They thought this was what it is. So what did the crocodile do? It remained still. If the bird near the stick, it's tried to pounce and catch it. So what this guy didn't, because he made this observation first, he wanted to see, is this a gimmick? Is this a ploy? Is this a clever predation tactic that the crocodiles are using? So in order to complete his research, he continued doing this observation for 1 year, blah, blah, blah. Are you following? I'm not worried about the sequence of this. The sequence can be anything. For me, D is breaking that logical sequence. Okay? Any questions? Sorry, I might have missed out. Let me just go back. Somebody asked what a rookery is, right? I saw a question mark. That's nothing but, it's a place where you breed animals. It's usually birds. It's a nesting place for birds, actually, if you ask me. Yeah? Okay, let's move on. So, are you following? So, even though we have repeat words, you need to still ensure, boss, if there is a sequence or if there is a story building, is there any word? In fact, one good example of this was in our previous problem solving session where we saw that types of drugs and method of usage of drugs. If you can quickly relate to that question, that was also a out of context question, right? Are you able to recollect that question? There were 4 sentences. 3 sentences were talking about the method of you taking the drugs, and 1 sentence was talking about the types of drugs. So this is a good example of the same technique. Even though you have repeat words, if it's still following the same theme, that's what you need to look for. Let's move on. Okay, let's look at this. Same thing, out of context. I'm going to give you, chalo, take 45 seconds to 1 minute for this. Your time starts now. I won't give more than a minute, okay, because we'll go with the timing that we should apply in our exam. 40 seconds up. You have only 20 seconds left. Time's up. I'm extending the time though. Go ahead. I have some answers. D, D, B, 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 B. Okay, it's between B and D. Any other options? Hey, no cheating, huh? No going Googling and getting answers and all. You should really try. Because those of you who given me the options, I'm going to ask you to explain how you arrived at that answer. Okay, chalo. I'm going to point out somebody. I'll pick one person for one option, another person for another option. Okay. The last person I see is Mamta. Mamta, tell me why it's B. How come it's B? And Manasa, tell me why it's D. Mamta and Manasa. Let's hear your reasons. I put ma'am short for Mamta. Mansa. So Mamta says B, Mansa says D. Give me your reasons. Why? How? Yes, Monica, you can. All our sessions are archived, right? You won't miss anything. I will give you another 30 seconds. You tell me why this is the odd one out. Both Mamta and Mansa, you tell me. Why did you choose this as the answer? Hello, Mamta and Mansa, are you guys there? I'm waiting. Are you typing? You have to type fast. That's another thing you need, right? For your descriptive section. You have to type fast. Aditya says option D because it's out of the range. That's all very generic. I need specific answers. Aditya, this is like saying that is the option because it's out of context. That is the question, right? What is the one that is out of context? You can't give me that as an explanation saying, this option is the answer because it is out of context. Unacceptable. Sasikumar, all the other sentences are talking about HR where this is a comparison between the performers. Where everybody else is answering other than Mamta and Manasa. It is talking about differentiate performer. Okay, fine. Now, okay, chalo, time up. Both of them are absconding from explaining. Now, Tiwari says link by the way CD and A logically fit, so answer is B. Except B, we are talking about HR services. Tungla is somewhere close to the answer. Okay. Now, I want you to pay attention to one thing. I felt B followed by C and D. B is initiating the context. Okay. Mamta answered something. Chalo. Now, let's look at this closely. Okay. I want you to remember what Pratibha said. Pratibha says in all the other statements except B, we are talking about HR services. Now, if you look at A, okay, there is okay, I will give you a clue. Okay, the clue is except one sentence, we don't know whether it is B or D. All the other sentences have some clue phrases which is referring to this word. Can you identify the phrases? This is your underlying clue word, which is maybe directly there, but may not be directly there also. I want you to pick out phrases in sentences which talk about this. Very good, Ashima. Right? Change is your clue word. If you look at A says radically alter. Very good, Pratibha. Right? B does not give me any word with respect to change. C says undergoing change. D says with the focus moving towards. So there is some shift happening, some change happening. Right? Focus is moving from one thing to another, which means transition, obviously. This change in focus calls for HR professionals taking up blah, blah, blah. So if you look at A, C, D, and E, you have this underlying keyword spoken about where there is some change happening, right? Another thing for you to quickly identify is this hint word in B to quickly identify that, hey, this is the odd one out. In other words, the HR competencies, in other words, means what? Is there a sentence making reference to HR competencies at all? In other words, means what? You are trying to explain something which has been stated earlier, right? You are trying to simplify it. Hey, I said something, but let me just help you clarify that. In other words, which means there is no other sentence which is talking about HR competencies. Suddenly, out of the blues from nowhere, this point is here, the HR competencies. In other words, differentiate outstanding performers from average performers in the HR firm. So you can clearly, even if you don't identify this change and look for all the other sentences which is talking about change, if you could have just paid attention to this hint phrase, in other words, it's a descriptive clue phrase, which is explaining to me HR competencies. So there is no other sentence talking about HR competencies. So this is the one that is odd. This is the one that is standing out, which is not in connection with the other four sentences, which is making reference to some changes happening in the HR services. And that is your odd one out. So the idea is, guys, repeatedly I'm saying, you need to start paying attention to these clue phrases, descriptive clue phrases, hint words, right? If you had even paid attention to just this, you wouldn't have been able to, no need to waste so much time. Okay, are you clear? So the only way we can quickly arrive at the answer for question patterns like this is to narrow down and identify these phrases. Nothing. Anshul, D is just saying, hey, we are shifting our focus from one thing to another thing. Integrating means we are bringing together some components. What are they integrating? They are making sure there is some sort of a strategic planning involved in this shift in the HR service delivery. Another dimension is added. So all of it is only referring to something that they are going to do different. Some transition is happening. Some change is happening in the HR service delivery. Right? Services are delivered. Providing services. And if you look at another keyword is also services, which is repetitive in all these other sentences. Are you following? There is, look at the meaning that D is conveying, Pragyam. With the focus moving towards integrating HR into strategic planning of the organization, another dimension is added to the picture of HR service delivery, which means something is going to be added, integrated, moving towards. That is your clue phrase, Baba. If you're moving towards something, you're talking about some transition, right? From one thing to another. Isn't that a change? Yes, Pratibha. Okay. So service is another keyword again. If you look at it, I think Pratibha pointed it out in the beginning. All the other sentences are referring to changes in the HR services, while D is the one which is T. Anyway, let's move on. Right? Okay, we have one more in this. Good. We will get into the habit of looking for what to look for. Let's do this. Sometimes when we are talking, no, it happens. H. Yeah, I would have said H. We know how to pronounce, but when we talk, sometimes it doesn't come out clearly. And what with all our first language influence. So let's focus here. Your time starts now. 1 minute. Go. 40 seconds over. Oh, sorry, somebody asked some question. Okay, I see a lot of options. Let me just scroll back. Pawan says, ma'am, what does paradigm mean? Paradigm is some sort of an example, like a model. The web services model offers, or the emerging web services, pattern offers. Yeah. Okay, it's been 1.5 minutes, and I have some answers. Most of you have come back and said C. Some of you are saying D. Okay, let's see what's the answer. Any okay, Aditya says sorry, ma'am, I can't find out. No issues. And another thing, good that Aditya mentioned that during the time of the exam, don't waste a lot of time on one question. If you are not able to find the answer for that question, skip and move on. You can come back and later look at it, right? Don't, because the more you break your head over one particular question, you will become even more nervous. You will miss out on all the other questions. So don't spend more than required time on a specific question. Okay, I have some explanations. Ashima says, C, because rest of the options are about the efficiency of the web services. Balaji says all sentences except C are talking about the advantages. Mana says all are saying about the functions of web services except C. Okay, good points. Let's look at it. Right? Any repeat words, clue words? So we know, the context is revolving around web services. That's pretty much apparent. Okay. Promises of what? New efficiencies. I'm just quickly, as I speak, I'm asking questions, so I'm highlighting keywords. Okay. The collaboration is to enhance collaboration between internal and external applications. Okay. And then I see B. For example, web services can serve as a bridge between an e-procurement application and an internal inventory system. Okay. E-procurement application obviously is referring to external, and so B is an extension of A. Okay, makes sense. Then C says, although web services are relatively nascent in adoption. Nascent means, see, sometimes some words might kind of stop you from, picking the right answer. Like, for example, somebody didn't know what paradigm means. Nascent means something that is beginning stage, right? Something that is just coming into existence. So all the web services are relatively nascent and adoption rates currently low. It is critical for ERP vendors to begin taking steps to prepare for the rapidly maturing initiative. So it's definitely not related to A and B as a logical sequence. Suddenly it's talking about ERP vendors and it's saying, web services being relatively nascent, and pay attention to this contradictory hint word although. The previous sentences are not talking about, anything with respect to web services. How long has it been? What's been the? It is only talking about what services and how they are trying to enhance or collaborate, right? So C is already standing out like a sore thumb, but let's look at D&E as items are purchased through e-procurement application. I already have that right here, e-procurement application. In B, a web service specific to inventory reduction can be invoked to adjust inventory levels. Okay, so inventory in line with B. As soon as reorder points are hit, a web services, the cycle time between buying and replenishment can be greatly reduced and the potential for errors virtually eliminated. So this E has some good pointers which is relating to how efficient this web services can work, which is obviously to bring down the number of errors, right? If you eliminate as much errors as possible, automatically efficiency will increase. So there's some sort of a logical connect, right? So Monica, you don't have to be confused between C and D because D has your clue phrases, direct clue phrases. So the only thing that is standing out score is C. Right? Even if you look at E, even if it seems like, hey, this is like some sentence, but logically, this is a sentence which is directly talking about how these new, the web services can be more efficient by eliminating as many errors as possible, greatly reducing, and the potential for errors virtually eliminated. And in fact, it's giving you an example of internal and external application as well. Because you're talking about buying items, right? Which is external, and then replenishment, something that has to be done internally. So obviously, the odd one out is C. Any questions? Any clarification before we move forward? Okay, I'm going to move forward. Okay, somebody post a YouTube link for Kiran, please. Are you guys still having problem looking at the screen clearly? Okay, so we've covered two question types, okay? One is paragraph completion. The other one was out of context, odd one out. Yeah, let's move on. Ooh, phrase connectors. Okay, this is another one we can quickly look at. Some of you find this very confusing. Yeah, so some broad things that I want to talk about when it comes to phrase connectors and sentence connectors is the idea is, and here let's look at the directions, right? Let's read that carefully. It says select the phrase or connector from the given three options, okay, A, B, C, which can be used to form a single sentence from the two sentences. This is my first sentence and this is my second sentence given below, implying the same meaning as expressed in the statement sentences. So what they're saying is, if I use this, any of these options to connect these two sentences, it should give me a logical sense. I should have a logical flow. The meaning should be complete. Right? Now let's read the two sentences. So don't worry about, don't get to this is secondary part. Let's first do only this part. Captain Michael allowed his men to make important decisions in a democratic manner. Okay. This democratic attitude fostered a spirit of togetherness and commitment on the part of Michael's fellow explorers. Option A says, as soon as Captain Michael allowed his men to make important decisions in a democratic manner, something has to have happened. But But that's not what the second sentence is saying. I will eliminate option A. In accordance with, Captain Michael allowing his men to make important decisions sounds very illogical. Anshul? In accordance with means what? According to. Something that is supposed to happen. Right? According to something that happened. So that according to itself doesn't make sense, Roshni, in the given context, because we are talking about this person giving permission for his men to make important decisions in a certain manner has instilled something in them, right? So where will I fit according to or in accordance with in the given context? Illogical. Option C. If I have to include this and if I say allowing his men to make important decisions in a democratic manner, Captain Michael has fostered a spirit of togetherness and commitment on the part of Michael's fellow explorers. So this democratic attitude is a repeat, right? Without that also, if I just say, let's write the sentence. Allowing his men to make important decisions. Remember, the goal is when I connect these two sentences with the proper option, it should make logical sense. Allowing his men to make important decisions in a democratic manner. Captain Michael fostered a spirit of togetherness and commitment on the part of his fellow explorers. Right? Because, Pratibha, when you use as soon as somebody gave permission for someone to do something, something should happen. But as soon as also talks about when you're talking about an event happening one after the other, right? It's always in succession of something. As soon as this happened, as soon as there is a cause and there is an effect, but that is more in terms of time reference. Here, it's not more of a time reference at all. It's not like as soon as Captain Michael allowed his men to make important decisions in a democratic manner, that fostered a spirit of togetherness and commitment. The spirit of togetherness and commitment will come eventually as a result of Captain Michael giving permission for his fellow men to make these decisions in a democratic manner. Here, I can't bring in as soon as because we're not saying, that also sounds a little absurd. It's like saying, Captain Michael said, hey, okay, you know what, you guys can make this decision like this. And not like the next minute itself, you can see the spirit of togetherness and commitment, right? That's a little absurd. Togetherness and commitment is a characteristic quality that stems out of the freedom with which Captain Michael has allowed his fellow explorers to make decisions. Right? So it's a sequential, subsequent trait or quality that comes out as a result of Captain Michael's freedom to his explorers to make decisions in a democratic manner. Right? So as soon as will not fit in logically. Ma'am, I have doubt on combining the sentences. Do we need to start the option with first sentence or do we need to add the option between first and second sentence? Yeah, this is always a doubt. I would suggest either ways, whichever is making logical sense, right? At the end of the day, the sentence also should be correct grammatically. Sometimes the direction will tell you exactly what to do. It will say, when you start, when you connect, when you apply this connector in the beginning of the sentence, then it should make logical sense. It will say that this direction does not imply anything. So I have a feeling, my take is, as long as you're able to bridge using this, but for the most part, it will be in the beginning of the sentence only. But There is no hard and fast rule. As long as you're able to link both the sentences using the connector and it makes logical sense either in the beginning or in the middle, I think it should still be good. Yes. Are you following? Let's take a look at, I think we have some more questions on this. We'll see. Let's look at this. The same thing. Select the phrase connector from the given three options which can be used to form a single sentence. Same direction. Nothing different. Let's look at it. So this is, where is the second sentence? I'm a little confused now. So I'm guessing this is the first sentence and this is the second sentence, I guess. I don't know. I'm just trying to logically break down the sentence. Yeah, let's look at it. So my options are report of a 90% drop in net income. Best Buy Co. is reporting a 90% drop in net income. Best Buy Co. has reported a 90% drop in net income. Okay. Oh yeah, hold on. I think it says here, we missed out this direction. It says, pick out the option which when used to start a sentence, combines both the above sentences in one. Let me just go back and see if that was the direction given for the previous one also. Hold on 1 second. Oopsie. Pick out the option which when used to start a sentence, combines both the above. So I think go by the direction, okay? But if you ask me, yeah, like I said, usually it's this used to start a sentence combines, but I feel logically, as long as you're able to connect the both, irrespective of whether it's in the start or in the middle, should still be fine, but just stick to the directions. Okay. Chalo, in this also, let's look at it. Reporting a 90% drop in net income. Now, I think, can somebody quickly, if you look at all the options, it's more of a tense here, right? Report of a 90% drop in net income. Okay. Best Buy is reporting a 90%. Best Buy has reported a 90%. So, at least for me, all three have different tenses happening. Right? B has a progressive tense, continuous tense. C has a perfect tense. And A is report of a 90% drop in net income. It starts like a passive construction. So, if I have to combine the two sentences and make logical sense, if I have to start with the given options, let's start with A. Report of a 90% drop in net income during the second quarter, dragged down by restructuring charges and weak sales. The earnings guidance for the year was withdrawn by Best Buy. Doesn't make logical sense. I will eliminate option A. Report of a 90% drop in net income did something. Right? That did something is not coming clearly. The construction is not grammatical. I will eliminate option A. Option B, Best Buy Co. is reporting a 90% drop in net income during the second quarter. I think your clue itself is during the second quarter. Right? We're talking about an action that started sometime earlier but is bearing relevance to the current one, which means it's a perfect tense. Good, Tanya, which means the only option that gives me that is option C. Best Buy Corporation has reported a 90% drop in net income during the second quarter, dragged by restructuring charges and weak sales. And maybe you can, because this is repeating, you can slightly change the sentence, the second sentence. Let me just put it down, okay? I'm just going to write it down. Best Buy, oopsie. Best Buy Co. has reported a 90% drop in net income during the second quarter. I'll just write short forms, okay? Quarter, dragged down by all of that. Restructuring charges and weak sales. And you don't have to repeat Best Buy. You can just say, and the earnings guidance was withdrawn. Guidance for the year was withdrawn. That's it. That's the second sentence. It's talking about, I'm reporting something that happened, right? Has reported a 90% drop in net income. Dragged down, how did it happen? Dragged down by restructuring charges and weak sales. And the earnings guidance for the year also was withdrawn as a result of that. At least if I have to compare all three options, the closest one would be obviously only C. Because it's making logical sense when I start the sentence like that. Shmriti, Priyanka, I just explained, right? For A, you start off with a cost saying report of a 90% drop in net income during the second quarter, which was dragged down by restructuring charges and weak sales, has to have done something. Where is the effect? The effect is not clearly coming through in the context if I join these two sentences. Because of the logical construction, I would not go with option A. Option C seems a better fit. Write the sentence and see. It will not make grammatical sense for you. Reporting a 90% drop in net income during the second report of a 90% drop in net income showed so and so. Yeah, so Rishika has given you an example. See, report of a 90% drop in net income led to the withdrawal of the. So I can't really club the given sentences. I have to modify the entire thing, add some elements. So if I have to, the better option when I start the sentence to combine these two sentences will definitely be C. Right? Now, a quick tip. If you think this question type is very confusing, I can't correctly choose an option, I need more time, sorry to tell you, you will not have time during the exam. So please skip this question and move on. Don't get negatively marked. Sentence connectors, I would say unless and until you're very sure, please don't waste time on this question type. Please move on. Right? You will not lose anything. Instead of selecting some wrong answer and getting negatively marked, I would rather suggest you skip this question and move forward. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so the next question type that we're going to spend time on is the same synonyms and antonyms only. This is just for you to have an idea, right? This is what was asked last year. But the only thing, like I said, it's not giving you whether it's synonyms or antonyms. So it's a little more trickier because you need to figure out from the options whether they are antonyms or synonyms, because the direction says in each of the following questions 5 options are given, of which one word is most nearly the same or opposite in meaning to the given word in the question. So which means it makes it a little more harder for you, right? When you're looking at the options, you need to see, okay, is this a synonym or is it an antonym? You're not just looking only for synonyms or only for antonyms, right? So let's quickly look at it. Snitch. Now, again, for question types like this, if you know the answer, you either know the answer or you don't know the answer, right? Sometimes root words also may not help. Prefixes, suffixes also may not help. So if you don't know the word, please skip and move forward. Don't waste time in such questions. Okay. And another thing is, you might have 5 to 7 questions on this. There will be some options which are pretty easy, like words that are pretty easy for you to figure out, right? Some, like, look at this, vituperate. What the heck is this word? I don't know this word. It's a completely new and unfamiliar word. I can't even figure out what the meaning of this is. Move on. For some people, even snitch might be a difficult word, right? Just so you know, snitch means to steal. Okay. Now, from the given options, if I have to quickly eliminate wrong answer options, I'll quickly eliminate stitch and suffix, unrelated words. Right? Stitch means to sew. If a cloth is torn, I will stitch it. Suffix, we know. L-Y-T-I-O-N-M-E-N-T. A word that is, a part that is attached to a word at the end. So, unrelated, these two words. What's board? Board again might be a word that you may not know, right? To be an omen. Omen means it can be either good or of ill. Usually it's of ill. Omen of ill. Okay. Again, an unrelated word. Parity. This one word, maybe you can apply a little bit of prefix, to be on par. If I have to break this word, right? I'm saying, hey ma'am, I don't know what this word means. Break it. At par means what? To be equal. So something to do with being equal. Again, unrelated word, out. So given the options, the closest one in meaning to snitch will be sneak. Why? What is sneak? Sneak means you are moving in a very quiet and stealthy way. To sneak behind somebody, right? To move in a quiet and stealthy manner. Like if you want to surprise somebody or you want to frighten somebody, or even if you, basically when will you sneak? You will sneak when you don't know, you don't want people to know what you're doing, right? Which means eavesdropping. Yeah, that's a good example, right? Or if you're doing something underhanded, something that you're not supposed to do, that is when you will sneak behind somebody, right? You're not supposed to do that. That is when you will sneak, because you don't want people to know what you're doing. So the closest one in meaning or connection to snitch will be sneak, because another thing that you do underhandedly is to steal without people knowing that you're doing that, right? So this is a tough one actually, if you ask me. Poach, not a very difficult word, but then again, you never know, right? Depends on our vocabulary. It depends on how extensive we have read, how familiar we are with words. Porch is nothing but a veranda, right? It's an open room which is attached to the outside of a building, like a veranda, like where you can just, lounge and enjoy nature. Right? The word itself has veranda, so it's a synonym. So first one was a synonym, second one also is a synonym. Just for knowledge sake, peek means we know, quick glance. You peek out of the window. Demur. Demur means to object. Capitulate. Capitulate is to surrender. Right? Bigotry. Bigotry again is a very, what do I say? We don't use this word. It's more to do with, if you're very intolerant towards somebody's behavior. Basically, you're prejudiced. That's the word actually. You're prejudiced. You're intolerant towards someone's behavior. That's bigotry. So, porch veranda, that's your answer. C, it's a synonym. Vituperate. Vituperate means to criticize somebody. Right? You are angry, you're rebuking them. To criticize, to rebuke. Examine, unrelated word, to go over something. Variegate, even if you don't know this word, look at the prefix. It has to have to do something with variety. Unrelated word. Belittle. Belittle means again talk down on someone, to make someone feel so small about themselves, to talk bad, right? As though you make them feel like you're not important, dude. Belittle someone, to put down. That's the again. This is almost like a synonym, right? If you're criticizing, it's a synonym. But compliment is a direct antonym. You're criticizing somebody, you're complimenting somebody, you're praising somebody. Baleful, just for information's sake, means harmful. Okay, now for these sort of question types, like I said, either you know the answer or you don't know the answer. Okay, so again, I would suggest don't waste time on these questions. Move forward. But somebody asked me, ma'am, how do I improve on vocabulary? How do I expand my vocabulary? Please help me. Now, vocabulary is something that you can't definitely improve in the next 3 days, right? It's a ongoing thing, which means you need to make reading a lifestyle, a habit, and if you're specifically looking at expanding vocabulary, there are so many things you need to do on a daily basis. Engage in vocabulary games. Try and apply context clues continuously. Every time you're reading something, and if you come across a new and unfamiliar word, I'm just going to take a break here. 1 second, let me just clear this. 1 minute I'll spend. See, improving vocabulary is not a joke, but at the same time, unfortunately, in our exams, they ask us all these Greek and Latin words. What I'm trying to say is words that we're not familiar with, right? As soon as you see the word like vituperate, I have no clue what that word is. But the idea is, if I have to register, the problem is we come across a lot of new words. Some of us even go to the extent of making note of it, figuring out what the synonyms, antonyms are. I'm just kidding, nobody does that. Though we keep saying you should do it. But what I'm trying to say is, the best way to register new words is to apply context clues, right? Because it's very difficult to remember the meaning of every word. An easier way to remember the meaning of a new word is to apply it in context. That's why I say, whenever you read something, you come across a new word, apply context clues, figure out the meaning, right? The best way you can register and remember it till the time of your examination is, you might have started a strategy 6 months back. The same word comes in the exam. Can't be positive that you'll remember the meaning of that word. How can you do that is to start using that word immediately, right? Which we don't do. If we read a new word, vituperate, will you ever use that word while you speak or you write? I don't think so. But that is a sure fire way of you remembering the words. Right? You have to apply. Whatever you learn, you have to apply immediately. Otherwise, you'll not remember. It's very illogical. So, how to improve vocabulary? There are various ways in which you can improve vocabulary. The only problem is, you need to apply that immediately. You start using that word. There is no other way in which you can retain vocabulary. Yeah? Let's continue. I think we have one more question type. We covered, how many did we cover? We covered paragraph completion, sentence connectors, out of context, synonyms, antonyms. I think that leaves us with RC. Okay. Reading comprehension. Now, okay, I just wanted to take another 1 minute. Now, when it comes to reading comprehension, 4 things. Okay. One is, you will have some questions pertaining to skim. This is some 4 skills that I always connect to RC is. One is skim. Something that will quickly help me figure out the answer by just looking at the topic and the closing sentence of each paragraph, which is, what is the title of the story? What does the author infer from the passage? Things like that, which almost asks you to summarize what the main idea or central theme of the passage is. Those are skim questions. So you'll have questions like that. The second thing is scan questions, some more detailed questions. which means the best technique to apply for detailed questions is identify keywords from the question. I'm telling you, reading comprehension will be the maximum points. If you have two passages, 13 marks, not a joke. In 13 marks, don't get put off by the size of the passage. Okay, 650 to 750 word count, but still, I'm telling you, you can still score as many marks as possible in reading comprehension section if you apply these strategies, which is skim, scan. Scan, you just identify keywords from the question by asking questions and scan for those keywords in the passage. So you are only focusing on where that keyword is appearing in the passage, reading the context around it, you will still be able to answer the question. Third is, if there are vocabulary questions, anyway the word will be highlighted in the passage, apply context clues and figure out the answer. That's it. Skim, scan, apply context clues for vocabulary based questions, and if there are positive, negative, detailed questions, what is true according to the passage? What is not true according to the passage? Those sort of questions, again, you will apply scan strategy. Identify keywords from the passage, and especially for these positive, negative, detailed questions, very easy. If they ask what is true according to the passage, that sentence will appear as it is from the context. Mostly. If they ask what is not true according to the passage, that sentence will be slightly modified. I'll give you examples. Okay, but let's take a look at one passage. This passage, there were actually two passages. I just picked one passage. One passage had 779 word count. Another passage had 650 word count. So 779 word count means 350 words per minute means you should finish it. You should finish reading the passage in less than 3 minutes, 2.5 minutes. And understood what you read. Very important. So if I am allotting 5 minutes for a 779 passage, half that time is gone for just reading the passage. So the remaining 2.5 minutes, I need to figure out the answers to 5 or 8 questions, which is doable. Let's look at the passage. So break down the first thing that you will do is, sorry, 1 second. Huh? Are you guys with me? Are you getting tired? We need to practice. We're almost there. Okay. So the first thing you do is reading comprehension. Break down the passages. Okay. Paragraphs. I mean. So this is para 1. Para 2. Para 3. Para 4. There's 4 here, right? 5. And 6. So it's a pretty long passage. Amrit, I'm just looking at your comment now. Where to use those words? Yeah, that's another thing, right? Where will you get a context to use a word like vituperate? No, all I'm saying is most words. And another thing is, even if you use those words, I think your friends will like kind of look at you weirdly. What's that again? What did you just say? Pratibha actually gave an example sentence. I didn't even see that. Some people vituperate their children for silly things. Yeah. I mean, I am with you, Amrit, when you say, it does sound a little, what do I say? People might look at you like, yeah, right, you're just trying to show off. Like, who uses words like vituperate while speaking? No, but what I'm trying to say is, vocabulary is not about showing off what are all the, new and unfamiliar words that you know, because communication is more about being sensitive to the person that you're communicating, right? You need to speak at the level that they understand, not show off words. But for our learning purposes, I'm saying that's a good example, what Pratibha said, right? It makes logical sense to use that word in that context because vituperate is criticizing. So some people vituperate their children for silly things, makes a lot of sense. At least you quickly register the meaning of that word. Anyway, coming back. So we have 6 paragraphs here in this question. Okay, let's apply the same clues that we spoke about, which is skim scan, positive, negative, detail, vocabulary. First question, which of the following was not a reason for the emergence of the white man's burden as a new rationale for empire building in India? So my keyword is white man's burden, right? All I'm going to do is I'm not going to read the entire passage. I'm going to scan for this phrase and where it appears in the passage. Can we do that? And we're saying which of the following was not a reason for the emergence of whatever this phrase is as a new rationale for empire building in India. Okay? Keep this in mind. Let's go back to the passage. For making it a little easier on everybody, I'll make sure they have a PDF attached to this, because later when you want to review, it'll make more sense. So we're looking for white man's burden. I don't see it anywhere here. I see it here in the second paragraph. Last but 4 lines, okay? So it says here, the white man's burden came up as a new moral rationale for conquest. It was supposedly for the good of the conquered. This led to much muddled hypocrisy. On the one hand, the empire needed to be profitable. On the other hand, the white man's burden made brazen loot impossible. Moving on. Anywhere do you see white man's burden here? Okay, it was there in the first paragraph, is it? I missed it, Tungla. Let me go back. Okay, I see white man's burden here again. To promote the notion of the white man's burden. So basically what I'm trying to say is, Fast and Furious, 779 word count passage, yeah, 350 words per minute. You do the calculation, you do the math. Okay, let's go back. I missed the first paragraph. So ideally, what I'm trying to say is, wherever this phrase appears, okay, you read the context around it. So you'll have an idea. Where's white man's burden? Somebody said, this is the first para, right? First para, 7th line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Come on, it's not here. Have I gone blind? Wait. It's not here. People, you have misled me. I don't see it in the first paragraph, man. I think you misunderstood the second paragraph as first paragraph. 3rd line, okay. 3rd line, 1, 2, 3. For many reasons, the independence struggle exposed the hollowness of the white man's burden. Okay. Okay, good. Fine. So basically what we're doing is, we are looking at context surrounding the white man's burden. That's our key phrase, right? Now, we have an idea where and all it appears. Go back to the options. In fact, the strategy you should have done earlier. So as soon as you identify the key phrase, look at the options. So you've gone and only looked at, you've scanned the passage to Narrow down on where this phrase appears. A says the emergence of the idea of the public good as an element of governance. B says the decreasing returns from imperial loot and increasing costs of conquest. C says the weakening of the immorality attached to an emperor's looting behavior. D says a growing awareness of the idea of equality among people. None of these. So when you go back to the passage, since we've identified, right, this is going to be a little annoying. So this whole thing, keep in mind the another tactic I forgot to mention to you. Even in the options, right, identify keywords. So when you're relating this phrase, option A is talking about public good. Option B is talking about because they are looting other countries, and basically it's talking about British invading India and trying to dominate us, right? So when they are trying to do that, it is only increasing costs for them. The cost of conquest is trying to acquire, right? Trying to dominate. So the cost of conquest is increasing because they are trying to loot us. So they're not getting any profits, they're not making any profits. They're decreasing returns. Keep that in mind. These are all clue phrases from the options. Weakening of the immorality attached to an emperor's looting behavior. So he feels he's doing something wrong. A growing awareness of the idea of equality among people. So when you identify key phrases in the options as well, when you're looking at this phrase in the context, right, look for those. And the question is, which is not the reason. So having said that, I'm just going to make quick notes. So the white man's burden came up as a new moral rationale for conquest. So in and around the context, I'm just going to quickly read. So this mindset gradually changed with the rise of new ideas about equality for the public good. And that's how the white man's burden came up. So public good is there. So that is, it is not the reason, it is the reason. Okay. It was supposedly for the good of the conquered. So that's another example phrase for us. Here it says, land revenue is an aptly term partly to prevent local unrest and partly to promote the notion of the white man's burden. Read in and around the context. After 1857, the British stopped annexing one princely state after another and instead treated the princes as allies. Land revenue was fixed in absolute terms. Okay. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. Clear, clear. Did we have anything here? That's about it. Right? And then we had it in the beginning also, right? First paragraph, third line. Why then did Britain give up the jewel in its crown? Okay. So if you look at the surrounding context, maybe later when you have the time, go through the surrounding context. The emergence of the idea of the public good as an element of governance was the reason. Okay. So we are talking about what was not the reason for why this emerged. The weakening of the immorality attached to an emperor's looting behavior, that's also mentioned. A growing awareness of the idea of equality among people, that's also mentioned. So which means the only thing that is not mentioned is B. This was before it came into emergence. Right? Now, some of you might think, ma'am, this took so long, ma'am. Skip. We're talking about how did this white man's burden emerge as a new rationale for empire building in India. I'm going back just for us to, oopsie. Just give me 1 second, huh? Something came up here. Preeti says increasing cost was in the context. Okay, let's go to the second and third paragraph. Okay, I'm just going to spend time reading a little bit more. Yes, it says here, see, it says the US is spending $1 million a day in operations. No. Through the centuries, empire building was costly at constant because it promised high returns. Investment was harming returns came to planet tax reform. That should be See, it says here no immorality was attached to imperial loot and plunder. The biggest conquerors were typically revered, hence titles like Alexander the Great, Akbar the Great. The bigger and richer the empire, the more the plunder was admired. This mindset gradually changed. So, this mindset of that it was okay to loot and plunder changed with the rise of new ideas about equality, governing for the public good. Ideas that culminated in the French and the American Revolution. Robert Clive was impeached for making a little money on the side, and so was. So these are examples of people who were looked down upon because they made some money. The white man's burden came up as a new moral rationale for conquest. So, which means don't be deceived, even though it's in the context. This is not the reason for the emergence, right? So, equality, public good, all is mentioned there in those options. Before the emergence of it, it was okay for point B, which is what decreasing returns from imperial loot and increasing cost of conquest. So, which of the following was not a reason for the emergence of the white man's thing? B was not the reason. A was the reason. Public good is mentioned there. The weakening of the immorality, because that's how it came into being, right? Because they were morally conscious of what they were doing. Equality among people is also mentioned, which means from the given options, option B is the one which is not a reason for the emergence of the white man's burden. All the other three, yes. So that's why the answer is B and not C. Tanya? I don't know who gave the answer as C, but this is just for information's sake, but otherwise, move on. Which of the following best expresses the main purpose of the author? Now, for a question like this, like I said, you pay attention to the topic sentence and you pay attention to the closing sentence of each paragraph. No, that's only because it's for us here, it's in a PPT form, slide by slide. I'm going back and forth. This will not be the case for you in the exam, so don't worry. It's easier to break it down question by question rather than go through all the questions in one shot. At least for our learning purposes now. So main purpose of the author, let's look at options. Option A says to present the various reasons that can lead to the collapse of an empire and the granting of independence to the subjects of an empire. Is that what? is the crux of the passage, or to point out the critical role played by the white man's burden in making the colonizing power give up its claims to native possessions. Remember, we're talking about the main purpose of the author, to highlight the contradictory impulse underpinning empire building, which is a costly business but very attractive at the same time. No, Tanya, I thought you had put down the answer to the first question. I didn't go back and check by the time the chat options moved really fast. I don't know, somebody put down the answer. I thought it was contradicting the answer that I had put down. So I just wanted to mention that. Option D, to illustrate how erosion of the financial basis of an empire supports the granting of independence to an empire's constituents. Now, I have 4 options, okay? Option 1 talks about reasons an empire collapses and granting independence. Option B talks about white man's burden in making a colonizing blah blah blah. Option C talks about how, you know, if Britain had decided to stay back in India and not grant India independence, it would have spent a lot in just building the empire in India, right? Which is a costly business. Is that what the author is trying to say? Or 4th one, to illustrate how erosion of the financial basis of an empire supports the granting of independence to an empire's constituents. Now, we have these clue phrases from the options, right? Are we talking about collapse of an empire and granting independence? What is he talking about? Go back. Read this is just for you. I'm not going to do that now because it's taking a lot of time, right? And I'm with Tiwari when he says it's a little too much to go back and forth. So all I'm trying to say is pay attention to either the topic sentence or the closing sentence. In this factor, pay attention to the closing sentence of each paragraph, right? If you see, it says, World War II left Britain victorious but deeply indebted, needing martial aid and loans from the World Bank. This constituted a strong financial case for ending the no longer profitable empire. Okay? It's talking about financial loss. Second one, let's read. On the one hand, the empire needed to be profitable. On the other hand, the white man's burden made brazen loot impossible. Okay? This is making reference to how finance was not supporting the ability for an empire to conquer another empire. 3. Objective calculations by historians like Angus Madison suggest a drain of perhaps 1.6% of Indian gross national product in the 19th century. Okay. 4. The conqueror was paying the conquered, undercutting the profitability on which all empire is founded. Churchill opposed this and wanted to tax India rather than owe it money. So basically, the conqueror did not have enough money to continue expanding and holding on to. So let's say they've used British as the example with India, right? So they're saying British could not bear the cost of expanding and building its empire in India. It lost control, right? It did not have sufficient funds, blah, blah, blah. So almost all the paragraphs are only referring to one thing. Thus, World War II converted India from a debtor to a creditor with over £1 billion in sterling balances. Britain, meanwhile, became the biggest debtor in the world. It's not worth ruling over people who are afraid to tax. So, if this is the case, from the given options, I will lean more towards option D, to illustrate how erosion of the financial basis of an empire supports the granting of independence to an empire's constitution. So, Britain could not bear the cost of continuing to expand and build its empire in India, and with a lot of obviously opposing leaders like Gandhiji and others who fought for independence, saying they will create havoc. So that's what was the main lesson the British learned from the Sepoy Mutiny of 1857. Now, even if you say, ma'am, those first 2 questions took a lot of time, not happening. Scan question. This is a scan question. Who is this? Who's come? Jaypriya. Hi, Jaypriya. Sepoy Mutiny of 1857. Only look for this from the passage. What are my options? We are saying what was the main lesson the British learned from the Sepoy Mutiny of 1857. So this is my clue phrase. I'm only going to look for this in the passage. Okay, one. But let me go to the options. Local princes were allies, not foes. Land revenue from India would decline dramatically. British were a small ethnic group. That India would be increasingly difficult to rule. Okay, go back. Sepoy Mutiny of 1857. Find it. Tell me if you find it. I'm also looking. There you go. Additional factor deterring the loot was a 1857 Sepoy Mutiny. What does it do? Though crushed, it reminded the British vividly that they were a tiny ethnic group. That's it. That's our answer. Right? That option was there. Option C. That the British were a small ethnic group. Okay, now if you don't look at the first two questions, which took a lot of time because I was going back and forth and we're trying to search and all of that. The third one was pretty easy. You got 1 mark. Most of us quickly skip RC, right? We're like, no way I'm spending time here. At least you got 1 mark within 10 seconds, right? Let's look at another question. Which of the following best captures the meaning of the white man's burden as it is used by the author? We already saw where white man's burden is. We already have an idea because we were looking for this phrase in another question. So let's just look at the option and see if we can answer this without going back to the passage. A. The British claim to a civilizing mission directed at ensuring the good of the natives. The inspiration for the French and the American revolutions. The resource drain that had to be borne by the home country's white population. An imperative that made open looting of resources impossible. So what is able to capture this? Again, maybe just to make sure we get this right. Pratibha says D. White man's burden, white man's burden, white man's burden. Remember in the second paragraph it says white man's burden emerged as a result of something. It says here, right? Look at this. The white man's burden came up as a new moral rationale for conquest. It was supposedly for the good of the conquered. That's it. That's your answer. What was the main purpose or source behind white man's burden? Why did it come into being? What's your answer again? Samir, you are correct. Right? A. The British claimed to a civilizing mission directed at ensuring the good of the natives. This was the reason why. That was the intention. A. It's right there. The passage supports it completely. The second sentence right after where you see white man's burden. Again, one more point. Less than 10 seconds. 2 marks in RC. Why didn't Britain tax India to finance its World War II efforts? So we're talking about, oopsie. Sorry guys. My bad. Going back. I think that was the last question. 5 questions. Okay, 5 questions in this passage. Why didn't Britain tax India to finance its World War II efforts? Okay, so options. Australia, Canada, New Zealand had offered to pay for the Indian troops. India had already paid a sufficiently large sum during World War I. It was afraid that if India refused to pay, Britain's war efforts would be jeopardized. The British Empire was built on the premise that the conqueror pays the conquered. That is definitely not the case. It's not even logical. Option D you can quickly eliminate. Between option A, B, C, let's look for this. Why didn't Britain tax India to finance World War II efforts? So our clue words are Britain tax India, World War II efforts. Clear. Go back. Right here. Last but one paragraph, last line it says, the conqueror was paying the conquered, undercutting the profitability on which all empire is founded. Churchill opposed this and wanted to tax India rather than owe it money. But why didn't it do it? This one. But he was overruled by Indian hands who said India would resist payment and paralyze the war effort. right? So which means our answer to the last question is, is it was afraid that if India refused to pay, Britain's war efforts would be jeopardized, right? India is literally threatening. So last para, first line gives us the answer. Yes, Amrit, correct. So at least out of the 5 questions, you are able to answer 3 within 10 seconds, right? So you don't have to completely reject RC altogether. That's all I'm saying. I know it took some time now because it was irritating going back and forth, but the objective, what I'm trying to say is, you can still get some points in reading comprehension without reading the entire passage. That's all I'm saying. So apply the strategies of SCAN, where you identify keywords from the question, right? Spend a little time. Yes, unfortunately, it will require some sort of reading fluency from your end, right? You can't completely ignore the fact that, okay, I will just apply this strategy and see, but you also have to understand the context. You have to understand what you're reading. But for some of you, you might come back and say, ma'am, all this is like a little too much for me. Let me just read the passage. Whatever I understand, I'll try and answer. But trust me, it's a longer way of doing things. The better way to save time in RC is read the questions, identify keywords, like at least these questions where it's specifically asking, right? This phrase, what does it mean? This particular keyword, what is the main source or main message from that keyword? Questions like that, SCAN questions, you can at least quickly get 1 or 2 marks and not completely ignore or skip RC altogether. Because I think it's one question type that most of us skip because we have an issue just reading the entire passage. Don't read the entire passage. Apply SCAN techniques. Try and figure out, get 1 or 2 points, right? Out of 5 marks, if you get 3 marks correct also, it's good enough, right? And mostly the passage will support the option, which what I'm trying to say is the passage will have a clear explanation or a direct answer to the question. Okay, so most of you are busy trying to get into groups. All the best with that. But all the best for all of you who are taking the exams on mains. I know there are other exams also. Whoever's appearing for NICL, all the best to you guys as well. Hopefully this session kind of helped you in terms of, we looked at various question types, right? I also said I'll take you through a couple of things with respect to the portal. Let me do that. Those of you who need to go, please go. I will not hold you back anymore. I know we overshot our time, but that's okay. Every now and then. So all those who were new today, I don't know if you're still there. Maybe you logged off, but this is just a gist of how we do for specific exams, right? Refresher sessions. When we have specific exams, we look at question types pertaining to that. But otherwise, we will have our regular problem-solving sessions every week. Okay, let me just share this 1 second. Okay, and everybody see? So, with respect to other question types, if you need more practice, will there be a session about the descriptive test? Yes, Ashima, we have one tomorrow itself. Tomorrow, same time, 6 o'clock. Where are we? So, you come down, right? Sentences, sentence fillers, sentence connectors, go to that. These are pretty basic. You'll have advanced questions as well. Come down, go to comprehension, passage completion, out of context. Okay, go through this. I believe in a Deepak. It is there, 6 o'clock tomorrow, descriptive session. Be there. Okay. So scroll down. Right, go through this. Go through all the videos as well. There are lots of it with advanced examples. Go through that for passage completion. If you need more practice, out of context. We saw that, right? Go through that. Right, and I also wanted to go through, I mean, word usage was another new question type. You can still be prepared for it. You never know what sort of questions will come. This was asked in some other questions in some other exams. So you can go through this. You go through the workbook. You'll know what's the question type. Right, a word given, 4 sentences, word used differently. Strategies are there. And for those who have doubts, all you need to do is just go to student discussion. Search for your question first, see if it's already answered. If it's not answered, then you go to new post. Select the question, select the topic, right? Feed in, type your question. Follow the post will already be highlighted. So just add post, your question will come up here. Right? We'll take it up in the problem solving session. I have to answer some questions. So I will do that in the next 2 days itself. Yeah, that's about it. So we'll have another session tomorrow at 6 for descriptive paper. We do have a descriptive section as well. You can go through, it has some sample letters and who's this? Frachil. How do I pronounce your name? Frachilita. Okay. So, yeah, tomorrow I'll take you through again, Prashita. Just browse through the portal. Basically, everything is there. Just scroll down. You'll have descriptive section. You have some essay writing tips, style, types of essays. You have letters, sample letters. We've taken earlier sessions. Tomorrow we'll also look specifically at some. We look at some sample essays and letters. Hopefully, you guys are taking the AIMs every week, right? We have descriptive titles also given out in the tests. Hopefully you're taking that. So you have an idea in terms of how to build content, how to structure your essay as well as your letter. Basically, you need to sound logical, right? So tomorrow's session will be like that. All right, guys, so we're done. Thank you for patiently being with me, all the 39 of you who were left. We started off with some 100 people and then everybody took off in between, which is fine. I have no idea actually, Rudra. I'll have to find out myself. So I'll see you guys tomorrow at 6 for the descriptive section. The rest of you who are preparing for the exams, continue preparing and all the best for your exams. We are eagerly waiting to hear the results from your end. So have a nice weekend. Those of you who are not going to come tomorrow. The rest of you, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.